Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. It's Bear here. And I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, A Box with No Lid. A channel I've created not just to bring the awareness around the lived reality of trauma, complex trauma, removal trauma, but I really want to bring forward what I've learned through my own personal journey and my own personal experiences being an adoptee and not having the greatest of childhoods. But I also want to bring forward my many years as a practitioner and what I've learned as an advocate and my own journey through all of this with the simple hope that something you may hear or learn here will not only be helpful and supportive in your own healing journey and in your own understanding, and also the increasing of the awareness around this sort of stuff. But I also want it to be the base of opening up conversations. The largest part of healing trauma is healing connection and how we connect and relate with the people we care about and the people around us. And the conversation is a huge part of that, and the emotions that lie behind those conversations. And that's why I try to break things down into the everyday, but also pose sometimes very confronting questions, especially like the statement in the last video, so that we can start to get into the conversations we need to strengthen those connections and to learn to all the parts that trauma took from us, that our removal took from us, or our removal changed, so that we can better participate in the lives that we are creating and ultimately create the lives that we want and so rightly deserve. Now in this video, I'm following on from the last video when I said, how do we emotionally process being a mistake, being viewed as a mistake, and what is emotionally termed and relates to that, how we made sense of it in all the different stages of our life and how important that is. And there's another component of that that I touched upon in the last video that I want to explore a little more in this one. Now, with removal and placement and in non-biological families, whether it's foster care or whether it's adoption, there is so many instances where the outside world reflects back to us our experiences, never more present than when we were little children. And when you're sitting in a playground and you're looking at other kids playing with their own mum and dad, and all the movies and shows and the cards you make in primary school and all these things that you're doing this for your mum and dad. Well, if you're in foster care, how did you shape and process that? When you're dealing in adoption, and all the processes around the fog associated with it, how did you process that? And that's the part that I'm going to attempt to start to look at in this video. Because within this, we're starting to unravel the structures of the jar that is the fog. But we're also starting to question how the interpretations we have made, and the ones that are right, but there are always going to be ones that we can change that will be more beneficial to us. Because as I said, like at the beginning of this video, it's all about building stronger connections, getting to our attachments to safe and secure so we can participate, belong, and be part of. That we can participate in those little moments and create more of those moments where we are filled with joy in our connections and in our life. That is the goal. And we need to teach our nervous system how to participate and how to recognize, how to move from peaks and troughs and start to explore and develop the neurological abilities to process and interpret that emotional white noise that all of the aspects of connection are within. All the things that trauma took from us, all the things in our childhood and all the difficulties and challenges that we've had to overcome built a base that we are now starting to look at and reassess with the goal of making improvements, not tearing our life apart to where it all falls down, not tearing the fog apart so that it collapses, but looking at its structure, looking at its scaffold, looking at our interpretations and how and what it is we feel and the emotional dictionary that we've created on how we interpret what and how we feel. and start to make the amendments where we can, to start to focus on different parts of our life and have experiences to better bring them into balance with the rest of our life. That is the goal. And especially with this video and the last one, by looking at the difficult questions, by looking at the choices and decisions that we made and how they are still there. One of the things that has always surprised me is just how common a choice made at 2, 3, 4 years of age is a core belief in a 50-year-old adult. An emotional core belief is still present there. And this is what I want you guys to start to find a way to have the courage to start to ask these questions. Not pull your life apart, but sitting down and looking at it when you get triggered in that movie where you're seeing a reflection of your childhood. Start looking at the emotional decisions you made when you were little and how you processed and interpreted that. When you're looking at, as I said, when a little kid is looking at other children playing with their parents, knowing that they're not going home to theirs, or knowing that they look completely different to the family that are raising this person you have to call mum and dad, or these people you're calling mum and dad, but you look completely different to them, and how this little kid doesn't look any different. They look the same, as in you got with cross-cultural adoption. There's all these different things that a child has to process, and that's the base structure of the fog and all the layers within it. We are now starting to look at the parts of it to have to change the answers that we made. We need to grow those answers up into our adult life and grow our understandings that come along with it, so that we grow our feelings as we release and heal, and we grow to build better connections, or to recognize the deficits so that we can start to bring things into our life to help grow and heal and create better connections. Now, how does a child process what an adult would struggle with? That is a difficult question to answer. Children are instinctive, and children will internalize. So when a child looks at, something like I've raised a couple of times in this video, parents interacting with their children, knowing that their circumstance is different, it shapes how we view ourselves. And like I said in the last video, it feeds that part of us that has the question of, am I a mistake? Why? And it creates a twofold emotional process more commonly. One, a deep desire to have that normality, that joy in what that person, our interpretations of what that person is feeling, and a deep resentment of it. And what I found over the years around, all of us that are in adoption and from foster care, is we have a duality of emotional jars linked into our trauma understandings, into that part of the fog that most therapists do not grasp. It's like we have two people. Well, in reality, we've developed four people, but two emotional facets or two emotional perceptions of each interactional experience of what it would mean to be in a relationship, what it would mean to have a mom, what it would mean to have a dad. There is the deep desire and there's the deep resentment. And both go hand in hand and both cancel each other out. And when we work with this, we need to acknowledge both sides. Hence the sitting down and exploring and asking yourself, so what choices did I make when I saw that being reflected back at me? Not once, but all the countless times throughout my childhood and early years. And how did I bury that and put that into its place in my adolescence? And then so forth and so forth. But it is starting to really pull that apart into a child's simplicity and answering that question and being honest with it. Because we're going to grow it up. When you start to have the conversations with that core group of people, they help you grow that up into your adult life, into the adult understandings that are needed to process it. They start getting it ready for, if you're in a therapeutic process, to be able to process it. One of the greatest challenges that I've come across in all my years as a practitioner and as an advocate around this stuff when you're looking at removal trauma is because it is so strong in a nervous system that is so uncomplex. When you're looking at children's neurological responses, they're very black and white, very intense. When you dump that on an adult neurophysiology, the neurophysiology can't process it, and we trip into shutdown automatically. It's too much. Well, what we're doing now is starting to prepare our adult nervous system to process it by bridging it gently over time, by simply exploring the choices and decisions that we made, and then exploring the emotions that come with it. A lot of people go, well, I don't want to go there. I don't want to try to do that. The thing is, we go there every time it's reflected back at us in movies, in our society, in groups, wherever we're at, when we're triggered. We're just choosing to, with a principle and a point of going, I'm going to understand me. I'm going to understand how I tick and the choices that I made, so that I can reevaluate those choices and hopefully put them into a better place. Layer by layer by layer by layer. You're not going to make these changes overnight. But these are changes that we need to start to learn how to make, because when we're confronted, we will always shut down. And coming out of that shutdown, we will either withdraw or we will attack. We will go through fight or flight. Dorsal vagal shutdown. It's the way we work. And if we want to break that cycle, we need to start to work on translating the complexities that are buried within the overwhelmment. And that is, as I said, when we're triggered. Like, I watched a movie the other night where, two kids were on a train with their mother going to be placed. One passed away, the other was placed. And in the scene right after that, she just dealt with a brother passing and then being placed in an adoptive family. And the woman goes, well, you ought to call me mama and you ought to call him papa. That hit me like a sledgehammer. But I sat there whilst emotionally immersed in the movie, looking at the nuances of my interpretations, recognizing the deep desire to have my mum and dad and deep resentment of it that comes with it, and all the hurt and harm that them not being there meant. And it slowly brings you to the place where your nervous system and your body can process this stuff. It is damn hard to do. It is confronting to do. And like in the last video, this video is going to piss a few adoptees off, a few people off, because we don't want to do it. But at some point we will have to. And for me, it's far better to choose and to prepare as best you're able to than have circumstances that cause the fog to collapse. And then you have to deal with it without support and without the choice. I really hope you guys understand where I'm coming from with this and my intentions for all that I am saying here and why I'm making these videos. As always, I love your guys' comments and feedback. Please be mindful, please be safe, and I will see you all next time. Hope.